The Nintendo CEO just said something absolutely insane that definitely does hint at some future classic Nintendo games. Specifically, in this case, I'm going to talk about Pokemon games, some of the classic Pokemon games making their way back to the Switch 2 specifically. And this is big news because we have real evidence of this becoming true. And by evidence, I mean an actual patent that Nintendo have legitimately filed, and just so much to talk about. Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite videos that I've recorded recently. So I really would love to know your thoughts and your opinions after watching. So right before we do hop into it, please subscribe to the channel. I for my goal of 45,000 subscribers. Let's see if we get today's sub goal of 25 subscribers, guys. Let's hop right into it. This all came about because a Nintendo shareholder asked a question specifically to the Nintendo president, Furukawa, about basically the DS and the 3DS games, and if they're ever going to come to the Switch 2 as some sort of Nintendo Classic kind of thing, where the CEO of Nintendo specifically said, I can't answer your question specifically, but we are working to make our valuable back catalog playable on current hardware wherever possible. And guys, I swear we're gonna break everything down, so I know on the surface level this doesn't sound too insane yet, but guys, if we take a look at what has been set up already, it's looking pretty good for us. So right off the bat, he's kind of dodging the question but also answering it very specifically. He doesn't say exactly what the plans are, but they are planning to bring more classic games back. So we currently do know that the Nintendo Online does have a lot of consoles within it. We're up to GameCube now, right? So the next couple consoles in line are definitely going to be DS / the Wii kind of era of Nintendo and Pokemon specifically. And of course, 3DS is a relatively newer console, so that's probably a little bit farther down the line. But if they do bring DS, then boom, easily they could do 3DS games, right? And another huge piece of information is, guys, we quite legitimately have a patent for a dual screen for the Nintendo Switch 2. Like, this right here is legit. It is 100% a real patent. Now, patents don't always come into fruition. Sometimes companies just do this just to basically do it or just to own it. But this is a great, huge step in the right direction where if we do have a dual screen for the Switch 2, it would be an accessory, but it would allow for seamless gameplay. And right off the bat, it's probably going to be an expensive accessory, and that's why I don't think that if they do bring the DS games and 3DS games over to the Switch 2, that they would require us to have this dual screen. I do have a theory of how they can make it work without buying a dual screen, but I just had to bring that up because it is something they are considering and something that they quite literally could do. The DS era of Pokemon for me is extremely nostalgic, and I'm sure it is for a lot of you guys too, even the 3DS era, right? This could bring back Pokemon Generation 4 being, Diamond, Pearl, and hopefully Platinum. We could have Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Pokemon Black and White, Pokemon Black and White 2, and of course if you're going on with a 3DS era, you could have X and Y, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, Pokemon Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Moon, and that would entail a lot of spin-off Pokemon games as well that could be brought back over because obviously people do be loving the spin-offs, right? And honestly, I have a question for you guys. What is your favorite DS era Pokemon game? It could be a spin-off or it could be a mainline game, and 3DS. What is your favorite 3DS era Pokemon game? The DS era, man, it is so good. I think my favorite is probably Gen 5, but it's a hard pick. And so as far as a Pokemon Classic collection goes, I think it would probably make the most logical sense for Nintendo and Pokemon to give us a classic collection of generations 1 through 3, just the base games, not the remakes, just the originals, right? But could you imagine, what if, guys, just what if they're gonna do a huge curveball and do kind of like a classic DS collection game, or just simply let us play DS games on the Switch 2, either through the Switch Online, which I'd prefer maybe not. I could also see them doing, the Switch Online with DS games alongside, physical copies or digital copies of other DS games. And this could be DS games in general. It doesn't have to be specifically Pokemon, but for the sake of this video and for the channel, of course, because this is a Pokemon channel, we're talking about the Pokemon games. Remember, it is a 30th anniversary, and we did just get a leak about a game or some sort of project called P30, which we are assuming stands for Project 30. It's a 30th anniversary of Pokemon, and I made a whole video breaking this P30 thing down, but basically it is being overseen by Omari apparently, and he's been a part of many mainline Pokemon games, right? So this P30 does not seem like it's going to be something small. It doesn't seem like it's going to be something minor. It seems like it's going to be something more important, something major, right? And as we mentioned many times before, the 30th anniversary is a little bit lackluster. Like, of course, we weren't expecting everything to happen, or like the most absolutely insane things to happen, but Winds and Waves was supposed to come out this year for the 30th anniversary, and it has been delayed. So a lot of people are still assuming something is going to happen within the next couple of months here before the year wraps up. Whether or not it's like a Pokemon Emerald port, maybe, like I just said, DS games. This could be a huge announcement during the next Nintendo Direct that will most likely happen in September of this year. We typically do have a Nintendo Direct in September, so that would be crazy. Imagine they did drop the DS for the Switch 2. And also gonna say it's another reason for people to actually purchase a Switch 2, like just to make a Switch 2 that much more worth it. So maybe this P30 celebration project could be DS games on the Switch 2, 3DS games on the Switch 2. It could be just a Pokemon collection in general. Maybe it's something to do with Pokemon Home compatibility, because we still do not have that for Fire Red Leaf Green. They confirmed it's going to happen, but they have not dropped that yet, which is kind of another thing why people think Gen 3 ports kind of make sense. And we are continuously getting these 30th anniversary videos every single month, kind of with like a little bit of a different theme, but still they are pushing like the classic side of things out, where they're showing basically the history of the Pokemon games in these little 30-second videos. And imagine if maybe we get to a certain month of this year, and the very last one of these little promotional videos, they say, boom, they're gonna drop a classic game, Generation 3, DS games, whatever it may be, because now the DS is kind of at that age where it is considered classic in the eyes of many people, right? I know that's definitely a controversial topic, but the DS is getting up there in age, which is kind of sad to say. So here's my idea about how they could make DS games work without having to purchase that second screen, because I feel like the second screen would be awesome, and I would probably low-key buy it just because it looks so sick. Don't know how it would work with the power. Like, the battery of the Switch 2 already is not amazing, so I don't know how they'd make it work with the power, but I don't have to worry about that. Your boy does not work at Nintendo Research and Development. But my idea is they could allow the Switch 2 to go in some sort of vertical mode without the need of a second screen accessory. Literally just simply rotate the Switch 2 vertically, where you have the top screen be the top screen of the DS, and then the bottom of the Switch 2 would be the bottom screen of the DS. It's basically just holding a ginormous DS, kind of like emulating a digital DS screen, if that makes sense. So of course, the advantages would be that this does not require two separate displays. The touchscreen is already built into the Switch 2, which many games do not take advantage of that, by the way. And of course, there are many DS games that do have touchscreen capabilities, so I think that would just kind of go hand in hand. It would have modern resolution. It's minimal work for Nintendo to do that, and it would be great for handheld play. Maybe they could also sell some sort of like extra attachable controller where you could put the Joy-Cons on the side of the Switch 2, if that makes sense, because that'd be a little bit difficult, of course, to like have the Switch stand up or be able to hold it. This would also just be a really cool way for them to bring back Pokemon Home, integration to, you know, more games in modern day, you know, titles and stuff, bringing back a lot of the older online features, you know, like Wonder Trade, Battle Tower, whatever the heck it may be, and of course, upscaled graphics. So it'd basically just be ports of these OG games, but with upscaled graphics. I think this fits that Project P30. Obviously, this is just my theory. I'm not saying this is 100% what that P30 is, but instead of making one ginormous huge Pokemon game, because they are working other big titles, right? And like I said, Omar is apparently overseeing it, so it seems like it's going to be something bigger. They could just celebrate the 30th anniversary by bringing a lot of other Pokemon generations onto one system, from Game Boy Advance all the way to the 3DS potentially. Hey, that would be insane. I definitely think all the Pokemon games is a major stretch, but you never know. You never know, man. The Switch 2 could become the ultimate Pokemon machine. Now, back to that patent. A patent does not necessarily 100% confirm that anything is going to happen, right? Like I said earlier, sometimes companies just have patents out there just so they could just have the patent. Doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to be released, but just makes it honestly that much more simple for them to actually do something just like this. And I think it's safe to say eventually DS games will somehow make their way to the Switch 2. It is next in line for, I guess you could say, like the classic NSO stuff. And the Nintendo CEO quite legitimately told us they are working on bringing their older games onto the Switch 2 as much as they possibly can. And think about Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. I know those are remakes, so the game was remade to fit on a single screen. So even if Nintendo could just release a, I guess, small selection of DS games to be brought over to the Switch 2, they could probably fiddle with it enough to make it fit on one screen. Like Pokemon Black and White, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, like somehow making that fit on just one simple screen. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think we should have DS, 3DS games on the Switch 2? Do you think they should have the dual screen attachment? I think that'd be amazing to make the Switch 2 become one of the ultimate definitive Pokemon platforms out there. And this would be the best year for it. This would simply be the best year for this to happen. But of course, this may happen in a couple of years, or honestly guys, it may never ever happen. I personally think that the odds of a Generation 2 or 3 port being brought over to the Switch 2 are the most logical options at this exact moment, but man, I'm just excited to see what's gonna happen. And I had to make a video about this because it's just such a cool topic. I want to know all of your thoughts and all of your theories. If you are really watching this far in the video, comment down below Yoshi. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.